Hello, everybody. Welcome to Alien Addict. We are your daily conspiracy podcast because reptilians don't take days off. Before we bring our guest on and the rest of the panel, I want to remind you that we have some of these delicious t-shirts that you can go and buy from our merch store. Ollie is in the process of sorting new designs out, so they're not going to be here very often. Obviously, this is also an audio podcast. If you're listening on audio, we could really do with the extra reviews. Since we've been asking for reviews, we went up from 39, I believe, to 75 in a week since I asked you to start doing it. So keep doing that because no doubt it will do something and it will help us. So without further ado, Oliver, I pressed the wrong button. Go away. I tried to rename you Oliver, David, and our special guest this evening, Tyler from Total Disclosure. How are we doing, everybody?
Good.
I'm doing swell. Ready to get chatting.
Awesome.
And I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy to be alive.
Are you Ollie? Are you happy to be here?
Yeah. I am.
He's got 3 hours left.
Oh, yeah, he does.
I'll fill you in on this.
Last night, and yeah.
Well, me and Dave, we don't drink very much. I've only recently started this journey of almost sobriety. Oliver has kind of hopped onto this, but he's still in that phase now of where he doesn't know he's trying to do it yet. So because he goes for big stages without drinking, now he looks at a couple of pints and the next day feels like he wants to destroy his own liver so he never has to do it ever again.
Yeah, that's pretty much nailed on, Lee.
I'm 5 years sober.
Oh, well done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 5 years. Almost, I'm going on 6 without a drink.
Wow.
Yeah. I will say this. Your life quality will improve immensely the day that you give that shit up.
Mm-hmm.
It's why do you think that they call it? Why do you think that they call it spirits? Like, you know how they call, I don't know about the UK, but so if you're looking for like a liquor store in the United States, usually what you'll see is beer, like wine, spirits, and more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they call it spirits because, and liquor specifically, because it seemed like you are a different person. You were possessed by spirits, a spirit in the bottle, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no question to me that drinking, there's some connection with some, I think it makes you a little bit more susceptible to maybe something demonic.
Well, we've spoke about this sort of stuff on the podcast before. I believe that all people have some sort of innate, like spiritual antibodies, so that like protectors, like a, what's the right word for it?
Autoimmune response.
Yeah, an immune system, like a spiritual immune system. And I think drinking drugs can like deplete that and leave you susceptible to things. I 100% agree with that. So total disclosure, how did that happen? How did you get into this craziness?
Oh, well, I've always been into it.
Yeah.
I've always, I had a sighting of a UFO when I was very young. This is before pre-internet. I look young, but I'm 31. And that's, I'm still young. I mean, there's no, I know there's a bunch of people out there like, he thinks he's old. But when I was a boy, I had I was in front of my house. I remember it like it's like one of the clearest memories that I have, and that also strikes me as odd. But I'm standing there, and the kids in the neighborhood hadn't gotten home from school yet. I had stayed home sick, quote unquote, right? Sick. I was fine. I just didn't want to go to school. But so we had the very inclined roof. So I used to take a tennis ball when no one was around. It was a way to kind of play catch with yourself. You'd throw the tennis ball up onto the roof. It would roll down the roof and it'd pop off the gutter, and you'd have to, then you'd catch it. So I'm mid throw. So I'm looking up, and this circular craft oscillating and moving forward at treetop level just comes right over my head. Classic gunmetal gray, circular with 3 distinct points that made a triangle. Like if you were to draw a line to each of the circles, it would have made a triangle inside of the circle. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, okay. I chased it. I went around my house and it was gone. And so I remember that very, very clearly. What I don't remember is the next 24 hours. But then I remember going to the library because, again, no computers. I went to the library, and that's where I found communion. Communion led me down the path. I ended up finding a picture of a flying saucer in that section, and it looked damn near exactly what I saw.
Yeah.
So that led me to always be the person at the party in high school, in history class, questioning everything, right? I went to film school. I went into Hollywood. I was interviewing actors. My mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. I only include that not for sympathy, not to say, oh, but because it comes up later. So I'm interviewing actors. I go the route of Hollywood after film school. I want to work in Hollywood, but Hollywood's toxic. Everybody sucks. You have to deal with agents. Their agents are they make you feel grimy. Just working on sets was grimy. The glamour that I thought was Hollywood, it was just it's a farce. It's not real. It's a screen. What I call now, it's just a screen memory. It's this idea of what we have, of what we think of Hollywood is like, lights, camera, action. But it's a lot of toxicity. It's a lot of just bad people. So in that time, my mom gets diagnosed with breast cancer, and I end up in the room with her the moment she passes, right? And I don't know how to explain this very well. I've never really been able to explain it very well, but I saw her leave the room. So I looked, I was talking to her. She was on a lot of morphine. So, I was talking to essentially just her body and her spirit. And, I'm telling her that, I'm glad that she got to see me sober. I'm glad, and then my phone vibrates. And we've all had this. We know what this means. I made a split-second decision in my head. It happened so quickly. I felt my phone buzzing in my pocket. And in that split second, I made the decision. No matter who is texting, calling, or whatever it is, it's not worth it. But I looked at my pants. When I looked up, this like ball of, if you ever looked down a hot highway and saw like the heat dispersion,
Yeah.
put that in a ball, perfect ball. I saw when I came up from looking at my pants, just a ball of that crossed my field of vision, went out the window. I looked back at my mother and she had passed away. Not
That's
saying
wild. Wow.
I'm not drawing any conclusions, but what the fuck was that?
I find it interesting you say it went out the window as well, because I know people in healthcare. I know people that have worked in like trauma and stuff like that, and they built a hospital where I am, and in the I can't remember. Yeah, it was in the like the trauma room. If you come into like ER, they didn't put any windows in it. It was just a box. And the first thing, some of the people I know that work in there said was like, that room's getting haunted because you always leave a window in those rooms to allow things to escape. So I find that really interesting, like you just said.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
But so, okay. All right. So it leaves the room, right? And I don't know what the hell I just saw, but I'm not quick to dismiss, right? So the rest of my brothers and sister, my two brothers and sister come in. I don't tell them. I don't think it's appropriate at that time. We go through our grieving process, whatever. And I wasn't happy with what I was doing. And that's where total disclosure birthed, was when my mom passed. That's when it birthed. Right? Is that was the final domino. I was a closeted UFO participant, right? So I was always aware of what was going on. I knew the 2017 article came out. I paid so much attention to everything. I watched all the documentaries still, but I never talked publicly about it. I did with my friends, like I said, at parties, in history class, I'd question everything. But it wasn't until I saw my mother, essentially what I think, leave her essence, leave her body, leave the room and depart. That's what I was like, whoever's playing, because at the time, what I was doing is talking to actors, mostly in the comic book realm. How can you sit there and have a conversation about Batman, as cool as he is, when there is some real shit happening? How can that be more important? Right? It can't. I could not justify doing Pop Culture Corner anymore. So I killed it. Total Disclosure was birthed that day. I was like, I need answers. And now I'm set out. Now I'm out of the closet, if you will.
Has your opinion changed on the UFO subject through your journey with Total Disclosure?
Yes.
Sorry to interject there, but to add to Ollie's thing, maybe if you can explain, like if you had a sighting, maybe if you can explain how you felt at the beginning of doing the podcast, of doing your podcast about these things, and then elaborate on how it's changed.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I was still very much nuts and bolts, right? What I saw was a UFO, I saw a craft, right? That I could wrap my head around. Now, I think the big lie that we're all led to believe growing up is that the world is black and white. Right? It's not till later that the veil's pulled out from you and you realize there's so much more gray than there is. Right? It's not everything can be summed up by a 1 or a 0. So I've gone from really nuts and bolts to, I think that we're dealing with dimensions not only dimension. I think there's not just a